Hello and welcome to Will Watches. This is Dark episode 1. So I am very excited to get into this. This is a show I've been wanting to watch and meaning to watch for a very long time. Now I do know that this show deals with time travel, so don't expect me to be surprised when that comes up, but I do really love time travel. I'm very excited for this. I've only heard amazing things about this show. There's not really much for me to talk about in this intro before going in because it's pretty much blind. I did at one point try to watch this show, and at that point I didn't know that it was German. So I had actually watched, like, let's say the first 10 minutes of it in the English dub, and then when I realized it was the English dub, I stopped watching because I was like, oh, I don't want to watch the dub, I want to watch the sub. But then it was like too late for me to start the new episode, and then I never got around to watching any of it again. But I like legitimately can't remember anything of that first 10 minutes anyway. I've seen like the iconic yellow coat. That is such a great coat. I love a yellow raincoat like that. I've seen that, and like that imagery of like this boy in a forest, and I have seen this being compared to Stranger Things before. I'm not sure how apt that comparison is anymore. I think the first episode potentially is that boy in the yellow coat going missing, and then people like trying to find him, and that is why it gets the comparison to Stranger Things, because it's kind of similar with like what happened with Will Byers. I think maybe that's why it's compared, and that's kind of as much about the show that I know, apart from there being time travel involved. So, you know, straight off the bat, my hypothesis there is maybe he got lost in time somehow. But from all of the praise that I have seen, I can't wait to get into this. I'm imagining it's a very kind of tight, well thought out story, like time travel wise you kind of have to be. So I'm really hoping, you know, this just blows me away like it has everyone else. And I know I definitely need to be paying attention the whole time. There could be things like the opening scene tying back into something. You know, with time travel stuff, the opening scene I'm always like clocked on for, because I imagine, is that actually the opening scene? Like, that's probably a very confusing opening scene that is actually like the ending of the show or something like that. You know, there's always things like that in time travel stuff. So I'm very excited to get into this. But before we do, be sure to check out the Patreon page. Over there you can find 1 week early access, so you can get episode 2 right now. You can also find polls so you can vote for what's next. And you can find a full-length timer-based version of this where you can sync up your own footage and watch along with me if there's anything I cut out from the YouTube edit that you wanted to see my reaction to. You can also find extended reactions over there too, where there's less cuts in the show and longer clips of the show that I had to cut for copyright and things like that. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump right into episode 1 of Dark. Okay, Einstein quote at the start. I do wonder the ideology on time travel this will take.
Darauf, dass die Zeit linear verläuft.
The time isn't linear in this interpretation.
Vergangenheit, Gegenwart und Zukunft ist nichts als eine Illusion.
It's kind of all happening at the same time.
Gestern, heute, morgen folgen nicht aufeinander. Sie sind in
These look like the same people, young and old. It's like them aging.
Alles ist miteinander verbunden.
But there was a few shots there. It looked like there were like 3 people, but it looked like them at different stages in their life. An artist. Oh, okay. A failed artist, perhaps? Oh, okay, and that's his son. I was expecting it to cut away before, you know, he actually like stepped off the stool like that. You never usually see them like actually kind of hanging there like that. It looked like it said antidepressant on that, so yeah, he's struggling after his dad died, of course. This is cool. I just got chills with that music, actually. Oh, I do wonder if the lyrics have any significance. Okay, imagery of watches, of course. That's just so associated with time travel. There's kind of like this hidden figure here. With the way the symmetry works, you never quite see his face in that hood. Secrets. Episode title, I guess. And this is the day they can actually open the letter. I think this is literally where I stopped watching before. I legitimately, all I can remember is him coming down those stairs for some reason. I remember him coming downstairs, and then that's where I realized I was watching the dub accidentally.
Mama!
Oh, okay. She's moved on that quick? Yeah, I guess I don't know how long it's been since the dad dying. Oh, who was cut out of that photo? We saw that photo before, right? Who was cut out on the right there? Because it wasn't even the dad. Wasn't there a younger girl in that photo? Like a little sister? I definitely need to go back and look at what the photo was before. I thought they'd be like eagerly awaiting the moment they could check this letter as well. Because today's the day. Okay, this is the cave that's on all of the promotional imagery. Hey, that sounds like a monster screaming.
Wie waren die letzten 2 Monate?
2 months since Dad died. That sounds like a monster screaming, but it also sounds like it could just be a special effect. I don't know, to put people off.
Was glaubst du, warum siehst du ihn?
Sollten Sie mir das nicht sagen als mein Therapeut?
Let's go his therapy session, just out in the woods like this, walking through the forest.
Oder vielleicht will ich auch nur, dass mir das sagt.
Tell him something beyond the grave, he's still alive through time travel perhaps.
Warum sich scheiße nochmal erhängt hat! Warum kein Wort hinterlassen hat! Nichts, das diese ganze Scheiße erklärt!
Yeah, he never has that closure. Oh, okay. It's an older woman, not a younger woman. Is this like the grandmother?
AKW Winden blickt dabei auf eine lange Geschichte zurück. Pläne für die Errichtung des Kernkraftwerks wurden bereits im Jahr
Okay, immediate thought is that that's not actually a nuclear facility. That's like time travel experiments happening inside there, perhaps. I'm expecting them to open this letter at this exact time and him to like walk in. He's like time traveled to that exact point or something, you know?
Morgen Mickel, ne?
Mensch, Ulrich, warum hat denn das so lange gedauert?
Okay,
Der Schultag. Eine Riesenschlange.
this is the rest of Ulrich's family. That seems like significant, the focus on this trick.
Die Frage ist, wann?
Ey, was glotzen hier so?
I'm surprised that they're all staring at him. It seems like they'd stare at him, you know, he'd get a lot of attention at school after what happened. But this is like quite a while after.
Komm, das wird schon. Los. Komm.
The yellow here is great. Even the rest of the school is so vibrant.
Freunde ausgeweitet. Wir haben den ganzen Wald durchkämmt. Die Häuser und Keller der angrenzenden Bewohner durchsucht. 23 Beamte und über 5...
Is Ulrich part of the police?
Was soll das jetzt heißen?
Dass Erik vielleicht aus freien Stücken gegangen ist. Das hat er schon öfter gemacht.
Okay, yeah, maybe he just ran away.
Schlafen oder wo auch immer.
Es sind 13 Tage. 13 Tage.
Yeah, that's a long time, nearly 2 weeks for someone to be missing. Oh. That's like this mystery man in the opening.
Franziska?
Magnus?
Solltest du nicht drin bei den Strebern sein?
Sollte der Sohn der Schuldirektorin einen Joint auf dem Schulhof...
The principal's son, okay. Oh, okay. I saw her and was like, oh, potential love interest, but guess not. With his best friend instead.
Vielleicht hast du doch was verpasst.
So has he been out of school this whole time? Like for 2 whole months? That's why people are staring. This is actually his first day back.
Wie war Frankreich?
Französisch. Wie sonst?
And that's the excuse. Okay, okay. Do people not know about his dad then?
Hier sagen sich der Fuchs und der Hase gute Nacht.
Das war aber nicht immer so.
Das hier hat nichts mit meinem Bruder zu tun.
Oh, okay. Something juicy with his brother.
Fragst du dich auch manchmal, wann du eigentlich die falsche Abzweigung genommen hast? Und dein Leben das exakte Gegenteil von dem geworden ist, was du eigentlich wolltest?
I gotta say, Ulrich, his actor, he does give me a lot of Mads Mikkelsen vibes. He looks very similar. Oh, and she is married to the therapist. Okay, there's already like this web of like connections.
Wer will denn in einer Stadt Urlaub machen, in der ein Kind verschwindet? Wer will denn das?
Yeah, the business has dried up recently.
Schwarzes Loch entsteht dann, wenn sich im Anschluss einer Supernova-Explosion eine
Schwärzeste aller Löcher im Arsch von Franziska Doppler wohnt.
Maybe you should be paying attention to this. Could be important.
Keine Ahnung, abgemurkst wurde oder so. Dann liegt sein ganzes Dope noch in den Höhlen.
Oh, stash or something?
Eine dunkle Gestalt mit einem riesigen Kopf. Es gibt Dinge da draußen, die wir mit unserem kleinen Verstand niemals begreifen werden.
I don't know. I don't expect there to be like a monster or anything in this, but we did hear that like weird scream, you know?
Wir hatten Mats so geliebt.
Is Mads his brother?
Es wiederholt sich.
Ooh.
Genauso wie vor 33 Jahren.
Everything's happening on like a 33-year loop. His brother, same thing happened. Is that Eric here? Okay. Spin me right round. Time's looping, spinning round. That looked like an electric chair or possibly something get him to travel in time somehow.
Dahin und holen uns die Chip. Ganz easy.
Alright, going into the cave isn't a good idea.
Du glaubst euch jeden Scheiß.
Ey, nur weil du nicht über deinen eigenen Teller angucken kannst, heißt es ja nicht, dass da draußen nicht trotzdem...
It's not his nose he can't see past, it's his hair. Magnus has such like a 2010s hairstyle. Yeah, could that be where Eric is in this nuclear facility?
Bis später.
Vielleicht.
So what is this event that's happening later? I feel like it's some sort of community thing to do with Eric. Gonna find a hair, yeah. Already onto him. I mean, that could easily be from anything, right? He works with the police. I'm guessing he does a lot of stuff then. Meets a lot of people.
Soll nachher regnen. Narben spüren sowas. Die können sozusagen in die Zukunft schauen.
Okay. Scars see into the future.
Fast auf den Tag genau vor 33 Jahren bin ich nach Winden gekommen. Hätte nicht gedacht, dass es so zu Ende geht.
And it was 33 years ago that Ulrich's brother went missing. Is it finally time? It did seem like she wanted to open it a bit early, didn't she? Still got a while. There are 2 shots of clocks kind of almost back to back there. I was paying attention to the time. This is like 2.5 hours different. Yeah, the last 3 shots, they all had clocks in them. It was 6:15, just before 8, and this is 8:17. That was really cool, that shot. Like all of the darkness, it almost looked like he could have been on a spinning diorama.
Das letzte Mal zwischen uns passiert ist.
Oh, okay, they already have a history.
Ist was?
Ich glaube, ich habe gerade ein Déjà-vu. Das Licht, der Wald.
I mean, it definitely isn't okay. We already saw how he reacted, but he's just putting on that front. Deja vu. That feels like it's a theme here. Deja vu.
Diese Panikmacherei ist doch lächerlich. Charlotte, korrigier mich, aber Winden hat im ganzen Umkreis die niedrigste Straftatenrate. Hier rennen doch nicht irgendwelche Mörder.
You never know. A low crime rate could mean a lot of cover-ups. I've seen Hot Fuzz, you know?
Gesagt, Gut und Böse sind eine Frage der Perspektive. Toter Vater, schlechtes Thema?
Yeah, like some actions that could be perceived as evil, you might not know the intentions behind them.
Wenn du mein Hotel meinst, darum geht es doch jetzt gar nicht.
Oh yeah, she does kind of have interest in it. If it becomes a national story, there'll be even less tourists.
Hast du die einfach mal deine eigenen Probleme? Ich habe keine Ahnung, wovon du redest.
Do people know about the cheating then? Okay, just gone 10. It was 10:13, she has to open it, right?
Jonas!
Can he sense there's something wrong with at the facility? But also we saw those cameras. Cameras were looking right at him. Okay, Ulrich in the hood. Was that him coming out the cave earlier? Or is that a misdirect? Because in the opening, it kind of looks like the guy in the hood has a beard. This is dangerous here though, it being so close to his actual wife. Like she could walk out looking for Jonas's mum and run into them. Let's hear what this has to say. Oh, they're not gonna show up. They gotta. Oh no. They're gonna keep the letter a secret.
Das war mal hier.
Sucht ihr das?
Oh, okay. Yeah, she did overhear it all, didn't they?
Für 200 wechselt es den Besitzer. Papi hat doch so viel Geld.
Auf zu quatschen.
Yeah, who is his dad?
Jackpot.
Oh, affecting the electricity. They're gonna get left behind, one of them maybe. I have a feeling that tunnel kind of leads into the nuclear plant. Oh, I don't like the, yeah, they're split up, I don't like this. Just Jonas and Mikkel, the little one is, I think. There was a footstep there. Jonas. Oh, it's Jonas, not Jonas. Yeah, because it's Jonas. Okay. It's gonna be his dad, isn't it? Yeah, okay, covered in oil, ink, paint. Or he could just interpret that as him having a vision of his dad. Okay, is Mikkel that's missing as well now? So is his dad, did his dad actually travel through time to get here? Or does he interpret it as a vision? Or is it like this interpretation of time travel is too... Oh, they're too late. Is it too late because Mikkel's gone missing as well now? I was saying maybe this interpretation of time travel is you like project yourself into the future or something, and that was actually a vision that Jonas was having. I thought, there's a second there, I thought maybe they had found Mikkel's body. Who was that? Okay, we're getting even more relationships here. So Bart is the son of the hotel owner. This makes it so much more personal for Ulrich as well, yeah. This music is great as well. The kind of vocalization. He had gone right into the cave there. Of course, Magnus feels the most of the guilt here because he's the brother, he was in charge of protecting him, you know.
Hab
Habt ihr irgendwas? Okay.
Is Ulrich maybe going to be taken off this case because he's got the personal connection now?
Ich muss dir...
Yeah, what's going on with him? Does he know more? Oh, buried by the leaves. Is that Mikkel? That looks like that could be Eric. It didn't look like he was in what he was wearing before. They've done a great job already setting up the kind of emotional hook. And what is the relationship with Magnus going to be like now, you know? Will they just fully resent him, even though there wasn't really much he could do? Mikkel was wearing his skeleton onesie thing, right? But what was going on with the eyes there? They're like being burnt out or gouged out?
Das ist nicht Mikkel.
Okay, so I was right. Yeah, what's going on with those eyes? Walkmans are from the 80s. Is this the kid from 33 years ago?
Nur ein kurzer Augenblick, dann kehrt die Nacht zurück.
I did notice as well the song playing before with Eric here. It was like an 80s kind of song. That has to be happening in the nuclear facility. I was told to keep track of all of the relations, so I have this spare whiteboard, so I'm already doing like family trees and stuff. Episode 1. So before getting into the discussion, I want to rewatch that first scene that had this kind of, what do you call that, with the lines connecting the people, you know. I want to rewatch that just in case there's anything I notice again. So I'm going to do that.
Wir vertrauen darauf, dass die Zeit linear.
And who is doing this voiceover? Okay, there's this as well, that door going underground. I wasn't sure if that was in that first montage here or if I'd seen that somewhere else in the trailer. You know how on Netflix, before you actually start, it kind of plays a trailer in the background. I wasn't sure if we had actually seen that door yet, but we see that door in the opening as well, don't we? So I don't recognize him. This is the hotel owner and herself younger. Okay, I didn't expect that curly hair. I mean, it was the 80s. So if we get like an 80s scene, I'll be sure to look out for her to know that that's her. It would be cool if the next episode was just the same as this episode, but what happened back in the 80s. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure who this guy is, but he is the guy who was saying, oh, it's happening again, it's happening again. I wasn't sure if he was Ulrich's dad, because we had that scene with Ulrich's mum and he was saying like, oh, where's dad? And it was like he wasn't there. I thought that was him, but I'm not like too sure on that. I'm not sure who this is. That's her younger. She is... Wait, was she chief of police? Yeah, she's chief of police, right? And this is Ulrich's mother? No, this is Jonas's grandmother, sorry. Yeah, that's Jonas's grandmother. And she's got 3 stages here. So, here is Ulrich. Here is Ulrich with his brother. And his brother is wearing a jean jacket, which is what I thought, that was my immediate thought just after the episode. Was what if that body he's found was his younger brother who went missing that time ago but has shown up in modern time. And it looked like that body was wearing a jean jacket like this. Has his brother come to modern day from 33 years ago? Okay, her younger as well. They look super similar. They did a great job casting there. They look identical. And Hannah as well. Okay, a few connections here. Why is she connected to Magnus? Because that is Bart's girlfriend, right? That's not Francesca. And then Bart has... They're saying he has a rich dad, which is the guy that Jonas's mum was giving a massage earlier, and he seems to be the head of the nuclear power plant. But it was the hotel owner who showed up with Bart at the end there. So that means those two are related, but you'd think because Francesca made a joke about Bart's dad being rich, so why would the hotel then be struggling for money like that unless they'd split? Or I am mistaken somewhere along the line here. And there's Jonas again and his dad. Okay, an even wider shot here. Not sure if there's anything I can connect more here. There's his therapist here. Yeah, it does look like, Bart is connected to the hotel owner, which is his mum. That guy in the first shot, who I didn't recognize, is connected to Ulrich somehow. And there's this bottom left-hand corner where I'm not recognizing anyone. It's quite low resolution for me here as well, so I can't quite make everything out. And this looks like a missing sign for Mikkel, perhaps? Just because it's connected to Ulrich here. Because it looked like the clipping for his missing brother, which is next to Ulrich, that was separate. But there could probably be multiple newspaper articles about it anyway, wouldn't there? So whoever has built this web here has done it. It was after Mikkel went missing. I have no idea who's doing that voiceover at the start here and who could have been doing this. It could be anyone at this point, really. Okay, there's a few more connections here, I guess. Okay, so that was Dark episode 1. What a great first episode. As you saw there, I already started making like a family tree timeline connections kind of thing. I was told to keep note of the kind of relationships between people, and as we saw in that kind of opening scene with all of the string connecting people, we saw that there's multiple characters in multiple timelines. So what I'm imagining is we are going to eventually get what's happening now in 2019, and then running parallel, perhaps we're seeing what happened in 1986, 33 years ago. So, and then there looked like there was some characters even older and some characters even younger. So potentially like 4 parallel timelines happening at the same line, being told to us at the same line. And part of that kind of initial spiel was that time isn't linear, it's kind of all happening at the same time. It's a bit of a weird sentence, but yeah, it's all happening kind of together. Time is just like flat, and I am wondering the kind of ideology of the time travel that this will take. Will it be when you time travel, you create a branching timeline? Will it be that time is inherently fixed and all of the events we are seeing have already happened and were always going to happen and there was nothing you could do to change it? Or are we going to see a whole stone in the flowing river where you throw a stone in the river and the river goes back to its original route eventually? It's like time kind of self-heals. There's like a few different ideologies of time travel that media can take, so I am wondering what one this will commit to, kind of the multiverse or any of these other ones. And then with this, with there being so many kind of characters and relationships, it just seems like great setup for like a grandfather paradox or something. You know, there's so many different types of time travel paradox, bootstrap paradoxes, things like that. But just because we're seeing these characters through the different like time points, it just seems like a grandfather paradox is inevitable, kind of. So I am definitely convinced that the body found at the end there is Ulrich's brother Mads from all that time ago. And we do see Ulrich's mother, she hands him this like chocolate bar wrapper and says, oh, Mads used to love this. So I am wondering, maybe in the next episode we'll see that in the body's pocket or something. When she initially gave him that bar of chocolate, I was thinking she was going to say something like, oh, these were discontinued like years ago or something, and she had found it or something along those lines, implying that someone had come from the past. But I think that might be set up for them finding that on that child's body and then realizing like, oh, this is a child from the past, and then Ulrich realizing, oh, this is my brother Mads who went missing 33 years ago. And they could also like maybe check the expiry date on that bar of chocolate if one came through with him, you know, because we see like clothes and objects. The Walkman came through with him as well. I can definitely see why people did compare this to Stranger Things. There's a lot of similarities kind of in the setup and even in some of the characters, you know. Ulrich, he does kind of seem like your Jim Hopper type. He even repeats like the same line almost verbatim, the nothing ever happens in this town, you know. And then there's like the setup with the missing kids and maybe this ragtag team of kids who are banding together. And then also the mystery of this laboratory. It's a laboratory in Hawkins' lab in Stranger Things, but here it is this nuclear power plant, which seems pretty obviously a front for something else, which I'm guessing is something to do with either time travel or teleportation. And part of me thinks maybe it was an experiment in teleportation that became an experiment in time travel just because of Mikkel's magic trick. They seem to focus on that quite a lot, and his magic trick was more of like a teleportation magic trick. But he did also have this whole speech where he said, it's not about what happened or how it happened, it's about when it happens. Maybe the experiment they're doing in there, it probably is time travel related, but that magic trick that he did, that seemed, you know, that was very obviously a big clue to things going on here, wasn't it? They had a really good emotional hook this first episode with Mikkel and Ulrich, you know, going to find the body, and it wasn't like truly his body, but it was a great like emotional hook. And we do see kind of earlier in the episode, they have a really good relationship when he was doing that magic trick for him. He seemed to have a better relationship with Mikkel than he does with Magnus. And I feel like that's going to backfire on Magnus a little bit. Of course, after a child goes missing, you're just grieving and everything. And part of that grieving process, they are probably at some point going to blame Magnus because it was kind of his responsibility to look after his brother. But I hope he doesn't get like too much of the resentment from it, you know. And then speaking of in that forest when they were all, you know, running away, we see Jonas. And I'm not sure if I should say Jonas or Jonas. It seemed like in the show they pronounced it Jonas, so I'm going to go with that for now, but you can tell me otherwise. So it seemed Jonas, he ran into his dad, who is supposedly dead, and the dad is there like covered in oil. I think Jonas is just going to interpret that as him being scared, having a vision of his dad, he's grieving, you know, he's probably, you know, there's a lot of ways you could explain that away. There is part of me that thinks, you know, is that really like him actually physically there? Or is it him time traveling somehow and being like there, but not physically? Like there could be an opportunity to kind of project yourself into the future or past, but you're not like physically there. It could be something like that, or it could actually just be like a vision that he was seeing of his dad for some reason. But I feel like the dad definitely knows something about time travel or something like that, because obviously he wrote that letter and said do not open it until this specific time, so there must be some significance to that time. I was half expecting them to open the letter and then he walks back in the room or something at that exact time, you know, but we never really get to know what was in that letter or anything yet, so I'm waiting for that to be revealed. That should be a great moment. And it seems like the grandmother of Jonas, Michael's mother, she like stole the letter away because Jonas never actually knew what happened with his father. He was like saying like, oh, why did he do it? We never found out. He never told us. And if that was a suicide note, maybe it would say why, but it could also have just been a note that was telling her something about time travel or revealing something. We did see the grandmother, she had this very visceral reaction to it. She was crying, whatever it was. It could have been something positive, saying, hey, I'm still alive, I'm a time traveler. Or it could be something worse, I don't know, some secret that he's told her that's going to get out eventually. And speaking of secrets, it seemed like Jonas's therapist also has a secret, potentially knows more than he's letting on. I don't know if, it could be a secret to do with time travel, but it could be a secret to do with something else entirely, And then speaking of Michael, who we see, he hangs himself at the start. Part of me did wonder, what if the kind of medium for time travel is death somehow? Like, that is how you activate it, that is somehow how you actually do the time travel. You have to die or kill yourself or something like that. But then him showing up kind of covered in the oil or whatever it was, I do wonder about that as well, if there was a reason, because he wasn't in the oil and stuff when he hung himself, was he? So there must be some explanation behind that. It wasn't like an immediate he died and then time travel to that moment. Something must have happened in between. So I did draw out a like family tree thing here on this whiteboard, as you saw, but I think I'm going to make like a digital version that's more easy to follow along with than my handwriting, so I'll pop that on the screen at some points here. But also I already started making it just before filming this, but I made it in like 1080p because my videos are in 1080p, but there was nowhere near it big enough, so it is in like 8K, so it might look awful on the screen in the video. But I will also, like, maybe in the description have a link to like a super high res version for you all to look over and see my thought process and everything so far. I know not everything in there will be perfect. Obviously, it's just the first episode. I'll probably even make some mistakes, attributing a relationship that isn't there or something. I was a bit confused with Francesca's mother and who was whose mother and daughter for that scene. Once they had run out the forest and the police had come and they were all hugging each other, I was like, I saw the back of someone's head and I was like, oh, is that Charlotte? And then Francesca is her daughter. And then I was like, I wasn't quite sure on some of the relationships, because there is like this huge intertangled web of relationships already first episode in, but that makes it really interesting, So there is Helge, who is this old man, and he was the one who was saying, oh, it's happening again. And we are seeing here, children going missing. It's the exact same thing that happened 33 years ago. So it's kind of like echoes of the past. Time is repeating, time is echoing. History doesn't repeat itself, but it echoes. So potentially he could know already in advance what is going to happen. Like, if there's this series of events where a child goes missing and then there are like specific things that happen after, potentially he could warn our characters about what's going to happen, and there could be other characters who also do that. And then he was father, I think, of Charlotte, who is the chief of police, or she's like higher up in the police. She was higher than Ulrich, right? So her being in this high position and also knowing someone who potentially knows something about the time travel, that's quite good. But then it also means if she had any nefarious motivations, like I said, we know from Hot Fuzz, just because somewhere has like a low crime rate doesn't mean that there's no crime. It means there's no crime being reported. So perhaps she could be covering things up. I don't know. She doesn't seem that nefarious at the moment. It doesn't seem like she has any malicious intentions for now, from what I've seen of her. There are like more family connections here, but I don't think I'm going to touch on everything because this discussion would be just horrendously long. There is part of the opening where we see, that big spread of all of these connections, and there's someone in there who I think kind of looks like Jonas. He looks like he could be an older Jonas. So I am wondering what's happening there. But also, like I said, when I rewatched that scene, it looks like whoever is building this, they know the future. They've got photos from the future events from what is happening now. But also the surroundings of that scene, they don't seem like they're in the future. I think this character could be in the past just because of what it was showing in the background, like these rifles and things. It looked almost like World War II-ish. So potentially this is a character who can time travel, making this board, but they are currently in the past. But that, you know, it might not be. It could just be they're in like this place and they just have a bunch of old stuff there as well, you know. And then there was this scene with Hannah where she is giving a massage to Bartstad, who runs the power plant. And she's talking about these scars, and she says scars can see the future. And I feel like that's kind of set up for something potentially, you know, maybe something bad is about to happen, and we know a character's got a scar, and suddenly he's like, there's pain in his scar or something, and you think, oh, that's a bad omen for something potentially. So there seemed to be a little bit of setup with that scene there. And then Hannah, because of her name, because of Arrival, I always associate Hannah with palindromes because it is a palindrome. So is that signifying anything? Am I reading way too much into it? You know, is her name being a palindrome? Is that important somehow? Is that foreshadowing that part of her character arc will be palindromic? So then we also have this mystery man in a hood who comes out of a cave, and he is also looks like he's in the opening as well. He is in the opening as well. From the looks of it, I think that might be Ulrich himself. So I think potentially we are maybe seeing Ulrich. We see Ulrich go into the cave when Mikkel went missing, but we never saw him come out. But we did see a mystery figure in a hood come out, and it looked very similar to the hood that he was wearing. So I'm wondering, if he went into the cave, did he come out the cave at a different point in time potentially? And, you know, there's this mystery of where Mikkel is now. Did he go in the cave and come out at a different time point? You know, is this cave just like a time travel cave? If you go in the cave and come out, you come out at a different time point, you know? Because it very much seemed like the same jacket that he was wearing as this mystery man who came out this cave. And that scene where we see the mystery man come out the cave, you know, there's no indicators of the timeline there really, is there? It just shows a guy come out of the cave. That could have been 100 years ago, that could have been present day, that could have been anywhere on the timeline. Really, that scene was kind of independent on the timeline. But assuming that is modern day, that seems like that is Ulrich going into the cave and coming out at a previous point in time, but only like by a few days or hours, it seems. And, you know, with time travel, you do have to be very aware of, you know, like I just said, Ulrich, who potentially went to the cave, came out in the past. So were there any scenes that we were seeing of Ulrich that weren't actually the Ulrich we knew, but an Ulrich that is from the future? You know, some of these scenes we have seen could be characters that are from the future already, and we just don't know yet, and that will be revealed later. And there will be some like little clue, like a scar they get in the future that you didn't quite notice, or something like that, that actually gives it away. So then we have Eric, who is this missing kid, and we do actually see what he's up to. He seems to be in some sort of facility, you know. He is there and they are playing 80s music, and we know the two timelines at the moment are 2019 and 1986. So what I think is going on there is they are putting him back in time. Like, he is there, they've either kidnapped him or he's volunteered or something. So they've got him, they've put him in this chair, and this chair is somehow sending him through time. And like, they were playing him 80s music to like train him on the culture or something like that. Or potentially that scene was in the 80s and they were sending him back to 2019, or he originated in the 80s and they were sending him to 2019. But it seems like him starting in 2019 and going back makes the most sense. But they put him in this chair and they put this necklace on him. So I am very curious to look out for necklaces from now on. I don't know, maybe we'll see a character with that same necklace and it looks nothing like him because it's an older version of him or a younger version of him. Obviously, a 33 years younger version of him wouldn't be alive, so probably an older version of him. But that necklace, it seemed like very obvious setup for like a reveal. There'll be someone wearing that same necklace perhaps, or there'll be a body with that same necklace. I think it is pretty much confirmed that chair that they put him in is how you time travel, because they put him in that chair, these shutters go across his eyes, and then from there he will be sent somewhere in time. But then with Mads' body, who shows up at the end, I'm assuming it's Mads' body, he's got his eyes burned out. So the things shut your face, and like there's a side effect where your eyes get burnt out like that. That's what it seemed like with his body. It looked like a burn mark. Like I did see it and I was like, oh, what is that? It didn't look like his eyes had been like gouged out, because it was like this whole area, but that's the exact area those shutters close on. So he was sent from the 80s to now, and that's why he went missing. But that also looks like sending someone through time potentially does kill them. So maybe Eric will just be dead if he shows up in the 80s anyway. Or are they sending him into the future? Either way, I don't know if he'll show up dead, or, you know, that happened in the 80s. This is happening in 2019. They've had 33 years to improve the technology, so maybe they've improved the technology to the point where Eric can now travel in time and still survive, not get his eyes burnt out like that. And is there a reason they're sending kids and not adults and volunteers and things? You know, why would you send a little kid who's just got a Walkman? You know, I would have thought perhaps you would have like a specific uniform for the time travelers to wear and that kind of thing, but they're like kidnapping kids and experimenting on kids. Is there some reason why an adult couldn't time travel and only kids can? Or is it just they're an evil operation, they just experimenting on kids is the easy way to do it? I don't know. Is there like some specific reason why it's kids, or is it just like a little bit of a coincidence and there are adult time travelers too? It's just the only ones we've seen so far have been the kids. We also see with the grandmother, she is cut out of the family photo that Hannah keeps. So I am wondering why that relationship went so sour that you'd physically go to rip her out. Do they think she is somehow to blame for Michael's death? Is there something along those lines? You know, why is that relationship so tenuous? There's also this moment when they're talking about black holes in the school and they bring up Doppler, and you know, whenever they bring up like a scientist or something like that, it always feels like it ties in pretty well. But they bring up Doppler, and I know the Doppler effect, but the Doppler effect, that doesn't really connect with time travel, does it? The Doppler effect is like with ambulances, where an ambulance is driving towards you, it sounds higher pitch, and then when it passes you, it sounds lower pitch because of the waves being compressed as it's moving. And that explains like red shift, blue shift in space as well. So I don't really see how Doppler can tie in to time travel, but I'm sure it will in some sense. There will be something that connects that. It just seems like a setup, name dropping Doppler like that, it just seems like too specific, you know? It must tie in with the time travel and how they do time travel in this show. Also, I just wanted to say the music in this episode was great. The opening song, I need to listen again and listen out to the lyrics of it, because I feel like maybe there's something that gives some things away perhaps, or foreshadows things. But then also in general, like the score was really cool, sometimes unsettling, you know. Really cool score and visuals as well. Love the iconic yellow coat. Of course, I'd seen that before on posters and things like that. Love that yellow coat. But then like there's that shot of him standing in front of the school, and you have the yellow of the windows of the school and the gorgeous like yellow autumn leaves as well, the ivy going down the school. That shot with all of that yellow, that was gorgeous. And like the opening, I love that symmetry, and I'm guessing that symmetry is like symbolism for, you know, mirroring how these events of the past are mirroring the events of the future, you know. That's really cool symbolism there. Okay, so I think that's everything for this episode. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, consider leaving a like or a comment. And if you really love this, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when the next episode reaction releases, or check out the Patreon where you can get that one right now, and full length, extended reactions, all of that good stuff. So yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.